Good evening.
Good evening.
Can everyone hear me all right?
Sure.
Wonderful. All right, thank you for coming out to support our official event to recognize Women's History Month here at the college. My name is Charles Gibson. I have the honor of being the Chief Diversity Officer for the college, and I will be the Master of Ceremonies this evening. And so we're actually going to get started with our director from the New Opportunity School for Women, and she is going to come and talk about the work they are doing there. And then we are going to get in our panel discussion after that. How does that sound? Good. All right, so I'd like to welcome her now to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Jenny Harpole, Director of New Opportunity School for Women here at Lees-McRae College, and it's a pleasure to be with you. We have an amazing program that we all need to be especially proud of because it's a program that serves only women from Appalachia. So we have our program here at Lees-McRae. We have another program at Berea College, and we have a third program at Bluefield College in West Virginia. But each year, we invite up to 14 women to join us on campus to begin a personal and professional growth development program. We take our women from all areas of Western North Carolina, from beyond Winston-Salem to Murphy. We can also go over into Tennessee and also along some of the Virginia borders. But our program was founded by Jane Stevenson, who is a Banner Elk native and a Lees-McRae alum. And her mission in developing the program was such that there was no such program for women. 35 years ago, this program began at Berea College. And it began with a very simple message of a woman was left and had no resources once her husband told her that he was filing for divorce. So there were no training programs. There was poverty beyond belief. And Jane had the foresight and the wisdom to, and the means, because John Stevenson was president at Berea College, and they had just happened into a little pot of money. So in a week's time, Jane had created a grant. It was funded, and New Opportunity School began. And all total, over 900 women in the Appalachian region have been served by this program. Here at Lees-McRae, we are entering our 17th year, and we have served 142 women. And our graduates have gone on to universities, either here or NC State, Mars Hill, and numerous community colleges throughout the region. So it is a wonderful program, all offered to our women at no cost. So if women have issues getting here, we have volunteers who will go and provide transportation. If women come with limited clothing, we have a huge clothes closet, which is constantly being replenished. And many of you in the community that I recognize have provided wonderful meals for our ladies, because we have a family-style dinner each evening. So when a woman comes on campus, all of her needs are met. And it's a time for them to reflect on what their life has been, but more importantly, what their life can become. So everything is provided for our women, and the staff that we employ includes house sisters who are available for women 24/7. If you have an issue at 2 o'clock in the morning, you talk to a house sister. If you're worried about leaving little ones at home, talk to a house sister. That's their job. There's no imposition. We have a counselor who also works with our program, and she too works in trying to alleviate any of the fears and apprehension that our women have. But our women are wonderful. They excel. And we have to explain that we have a small program by choice because we only accept 14 women a year because we use the college van. And that's the number of women you can put on a van without having a commercial driver's license. So I found that an interesting number, and finally I learned the answer to that. But our women do academic classes during the day. They have done internships in the afternoon. We're still working out the logistics for this year. And then we've offered cultural activities on the weekend. Sometimes they go to the community theater. Sometimes they go to Grandfather. And sometimes we visit a museum over in Boone. But it's to develop a well-rounded woman. And our women are just flourishing. So please, if you know of a woman that could benefit from our program, please take a flyer. And if you happen to think of someone in the next month or so, please call me, because we know that we have women in our area that could benefit from the program. But we just have to find the way to get to them. So thank you for your attention tonight. And are there any questions? Well, I appreciate each and every one of you because we could not make it without you. So thank you.
Just saw some people coming in, just wanted to make sure everyone had a chance to get to their seat. Thank you, Jenny, for coming tonight and for sharing. And she actually has those flyers with her, and they'll be available throughout the event. So now we're going to get into our panel. And so I'd just like to ask each of the panelists to just briefly sort of introduce yourselves, your name, where you're from, and how you're connected to the college. So whoever would like to start first.
Okay. I'm Janet Spear, and I came from Texas via Louisiana up to Boone and over. So, and I've been associated with the college for about 42 years in performing arts.
I'm Frankie Francione. I was born in Take Dorm. It was the hospital when I was born.
Oh, say that again in the microphone. That's so cool.
I was born in Take Dorm. It was Grace Hospital then, so I was born here on campus. And I have been in Boundary Rock all my life. I worked at Lees-McRae for 47 years, and I retired in May of 2019.
I'm Emma Ryerson. I'm from Salisbury, North Carolina, so just 2 hours away. I'm a student here, so that's how I'm connected.
I'm Brittany Augustine. I am from Naples, Florida. I moved up to Lees-McRae 4 years ago. I'm currently a senior.
Okay, thank you for that. And so the next question is, could you talk about the women that you looked up to growing up? Who was a model of womanhood for you?
Of course, my mom was a model for me, and I had three sisters that I looked up to because they told me I had to. But, but I had lots of mentors when my teachers, a lot of my teachers in elementary and high school, and then when I came to Lees-McRae, there were a lot of good women here. Marion Craigie taught me in high school, by the way, English, and she's a good mentor. And some of the ladies here, Joyce Baker, Mary Johnson, of course you wouldn't know these folks, but some of the folks sitting here remember these people. I don't know, I can't think of names right off, but there were a lot of good folks here, and everybody was so kind to me when I started, because I started here with a high school education and didn't have a college degree, and everybody was so helpful to me and helped me do the best I could do, and I did pretty good, I think.
You did. Yeah, just go back.
Okay, this one.
So I would probably say my stepmom. My stepmom has always been in my life because my mom wasn't really there very often. So my stepmom came in when I was about 3 years old, and ever since that moment, I don't remember a moment without her there. She's been there to be a guide for being anything, being a mentor, being supportive. If I was having issues with my mom, she's always been that type of person where she was like, no matter how mad she was at the situation, she would never put that in any harm's way and like make me feel like I was in the wrong. She was always that type of person to where no matter how mad, she was going to be there for me first before anything. So I would always say my stepmom was the person I would look up to.
Growing up, I grew up in a household full of women. It was my mother, my grandma, my two older sisters, myself, and then my two younger brothers. So my grandma being my biggest role model because she taught me cooking, cleaning, and how to be a lady. She taught me gardening and a bunch of stuff. And my mom teaching me hard work and what it meant to be a woman growing up in a society where women had to work harder than men, and how that hard work could pay off. And also teaching me what it meant to be a mother and motherhood and how hard that might be. So how important it is to choose when you want to be a mother at a very specific time.
My mother certainly, she was a very, very kind person, and I think that's why she lived to be 100. You know, she just didn't worry about things. I wish I had that gift. But I guess my grandmother was very influential. My parents brought my grandmother to live next to us, because mother had to work. So she was always there, and she was a constant, would give me sugar bread and stuff like that, you know. So, but I remember going to the University of Texas in the 60s. If you know anything about the University of Texas, in the 60s, it was sort of Berkeley, so I had the long blonde hair and tried to be Mary of Peter, Paul, and Mary. But all I could see was my Baptist grandmother there in my face. So I avoided the drugs and the other things that everybody did, but I ran with them. You know, I ran with them and got to know them, but grandmother was always there. And so I think she was a pretty big influence.
Thank you very much. And so now I'd like to actually transition to your time at Lees-McRae. So, and I guess it's more for Dr. Spear and Ms. Frankie, it's more for you two. Okay. Could you all sort of talk about all the sort of changes that you've seen sort of over the years? And
how many presidents?
And particularly, if possible, with respect to sort of women, you know, here at the college, and sort of what some of your thoughts are about that.
Okay, Dr. Evans' picture on the wall there, he was the president at Lees-McRae when I came in 1972. And the offices were full of women working then. There were some men, but it seemed like mostly women worked at Lees-McRae. And when I left, it seemed like mostly women work at Lees-McRae. So they were good people, they were hard workers, they were encouragers, they were fun, and things have changed considerably. I mean, if you want to talk about technology, you know, when I started here, there was two people in my office, me and my boss. And we did everything. I had a manual typewriter, the really hard keys to push, so we really had strong fingers in those days. And everything else was kept on cards. We could either type it on the cards or we could write it on the cards. Anytime we had to do any kind of collecting information off of that, we had to go through all the cards to do that. And finally, we got memory typewriters, which were great. We got computers, the first computer in 1983. But there were women who were in all the offices here who had administrative positions and who were the secretarial staff. And they were all very good to work with. And, you know, you talk about working with women, and a lot of people say it's kind of a catty thing, you know, that you can't work. Some men say they can't work with women. But everybody was really good to work with, as I remember. So we were family. We would, you know, if people had problems, if people died in their family, we were like family for each other and supporting each other. And if we had somebody get married, you know, they gave you a big shower. If you had a baby, they gave you a big baby shower. So it was really nurturing, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I don't need, you were talking about the transitions. You know, you're always transitioning. It's always, you know, with a new president or anything. And with a small school, it's going to be like that. And I think I learned during those transitions that just stay the course. You know, just go with it. And you will find a way to make these personalities work. And all that. And I think staying the course was my best thing. One of the things that I would do if I felt like I needed to was to satellite it out. I was in charge of the performing arts department, so we would just keep working and keep doing good stuff. And when you do that, it's amazing how you can stay the course, and no matter what the transitions are. But I'm like Frankie. I never felt like being a woman was a problem at Lees-McRae. I never felt like that ever was an issue. And that's way back in Evans' time. Because Dr. Evans was appreciative of women. He was very much an equalist in that. So I would agree absolutely with you that I never felt discrimination.
So, Ms. Frankie, it's funny that you were talking about the typewriters. The theater department is about to put on a production of 9 to 5, so if you can remember which closet those are in, we'll talk about that after. So
But
I
they
can
need
sort of help out
electrics.
Dr. Mike.
They need the old electrics. So if
Yes.
anybody has an old
I
electric,
have an old one that's not electric.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would give
They
you
need
to
electrics.
get rid of it, but
yeah.
And so now moving to our students, if you all could sort of talk about what it's like now, what your experiences have been here at the college.
So I definitely don't have as many female professors as I do male professors. I have 2 male professors this semester, and I only have, I guess it's equal. I have 2, and then I have 2. But the amount of male professors has definitely grown, I feel like, over the years. It's definitely a lot more male. I wouldn't say faculty members. I would definitely say more staff members than anything. But I agree. I feel like I've never had a moment to where I don't feel as equal. I feel like a lot of my professors keep it pretty equal on like the opportunity level through their classes.
Personally, from the moment that I stepped onto Lees-McRae campus, I've been greeted by women and welcomed with open arms by women. And just looking out into the crowd, I see Miss Amy and Miss Rita and Dr. Tolbert and Miss Sandy and Miss Marla, and all these women have helped me out through my experiences at Lees-McRae. So I've just felt like it's just a growing environment. And Riley, who has helped me so much, it's just really helped me embrace my potential as a woman and what I could really do as a woman. So I really appreciate that about the school. They definitely have opportunities for women to grow.
Everybody's looking at me like, what's next? What's next? So current students again. So Emma, are there any sort of women at the college who have sort of had any impact on you, like Brittany was talking about?
Dr. Amber. I love this woman. She's amazing. Guys, if you ever need some motivation in your life, that is the woman to go to. I have a really crazy schedule. I'm a double major, double minor, and I have been told by many people that I am crazy for doing this. And she was like, that's amazing. You're going to use this in so many ways. And she's like, power to you. She doesn't undermine anything of that decision I made to do any of that. And if anything, she's like, I've never heard of it, and that is the coolest thing you could have done. Because I am a biology. I have more of my background's in biology, and I added an athletic coaching minor. And I look at that minor more of a leadership minor, because it does more talking about leadership and skills like that. And she was full on embracing it, to where a lot of the other people where I talked about it, they were like, it's really not going to benefit you in the long run. And I was just like, I only needed to hear one person, and that was the one person I needed to hear from.
And so this is for Ms. Frankie, Dr. Spear, coming back over to the other side. What is some advice that you would give women today? What are some things that maybe you wish you had known sort of, earlier in life, or?
Well, I don't know if it's for women.
Or just general advice is fine.
Just kind of in general. Learn all you can learn. That was one thing that served me well in the office. Of course, when we started, it was just me and the boss, but then the offices would grow. And having been the person on the ground floor, I really knew how to do everything, as far as the administrative part of the office went. And it just really served me well. There were times when Lees-McRae had to look at reducing force, employees, because we went through some hard times. And I always felt like that helped me keep my job, because I could do my job and I could do what other people had learned to do, So, and have a good attitude to your work, and be honest in what you do, and just keep learning as long as you can, as long as you're there. Learn what's around you, learn how to do everything that you can do. So,
I think it's important to know that I was privileged to be in a situation where women were treated well. I know that doesn't always happen. So in my case, it was important to me that, and I think that you have to be careful as a woman not to be on the defensive. If you're like this all the time, it's hard to work with people. So I think if I've learned anything, that as a woman, it's just that everybody is equal, and you are there, and you're not looking for ways that people are treating you badly. If you're looking for that all the time, you'll find it. That's all you have to do is look for it. So I think not being in the defensive, saying, I know who I am. You're equal. I am good. I can do good work, and I'll show you that good work. And focus on that rather than focusing on your privilege of being a woman. And I know that's easy for me to say because I had a good situation. That would be a lot harder to say if you're in a bad situation, and that's a different story. Sometimes you have to be a warrior. But a lot of times if you can start off with that, and if you've got a fight to fight, then you have to fight it. But that was good for me.
Thank you. And so for our students, because we have a couple of upperclassmen here, what do you sort of wish you had known at the beginning of your Lees-McRae experience? And what would you tell your younger self, your freshman self?
I would tell my freshman self to do more research on what I want to do in the future, and not rush to figure out what I need to do at 18 years old. Because at 18 years old, I didn't have to know exactly what career path I wanted to go in, because it's not a dire need. I could go get more of a broader degree and have a lot more to do than such a narrow pool of what I could do. And I just feel like if I was going to tell myself one thing freshman year, is like, slow down and take a breath, and you don't have to rush to figure out your whole life.
For me, I guess I would have told myself to stay true to myself, and be confident in who I am, because I know I have the skill set. But when people come in and being on the defensive all the time and feeling like people are trying to test your womanhood, it kind of makes you actually question your womanhood yourself. So staying true to yourself, and also just not forcing anything and just going with the environment that's around you and seeking out opportunities more than trying to force opportunities, because there's definitely opportunities. There's women that want to give you opportunities and that want to teach you about your environment. So that's what I would have told myself in my freshman year.
So, what is your favorite Lees-McRae memory?
Oh, boy.
I know there are a lot.
Okay, I have my memory. It was freshman year. I was at a soccer game, and I met my best friend that I did not know who was going to be my best friend. And we told each other, never have cheering before. Never in my life have I ever cheered before. And I thought it was a crazy thought. We told each other that we were going to go join the cheer team the next day. And we did. And have been on the cheer team ever since. Now captain, and I think that was my favorite memory. It's just like meeting a group of people and being so willing on just changing our whole life around by just trying something new.
I'm not sure I can have just one favorite memory of Lees-McRae.
That's okay, Miss Frankie. You can have a
But
couple.
I will say, when I think about favorite memories, I would say when we had an office staff that we really worked together well, and there were lots of times that happened. We celebrated things together, and we would be working on a project, but we would all be so happy and get along with each other, and things were going well on that project, and we just made fun out of it instead of, a chore. And we did that a lot, so.
Go ahead. Okay. Well, I kept thinking about it. It's like, when you're in the theater, every show you do is a great moment. But I'd have to say, when we moved to Boone from LSU, the point was that I was going to teach at Appalachian, and I did teach at Appalachian for a year, and then the legislature wouldn't give them a position, and I was brought over here, and that's the best moment, because it put me here. So it was just a great fit, and I'm very, very thankful for that day.
So I guess I don't have a favorite Lees-McRae moment. And Corey's over there looking like I should be your favorite moment. But yeah, it's just more so the experience and the people that I've encountered. I'm really, without the people that I've encountered here, I really wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I would have given up a long time ago. But if we're talking about the experience, my favorite Lees-McRae experience is staying here over the summer and getting to know the community more and getting more in tune with my environment and getting to know where I'm at. That was very euphoric, and it was very reinventing for me.
And so, Miss Frankie, start with you. Because it's sort of, could you talk, because your family is connected to the college and stuff in a few different ways. And would you mind sort of sharing that with everybody?
My great-grandfather was a stone mason, rock mason, and he helped build a lot of the buildings here on campus. He raised my mother because my mother's mother died when she was 8 years old of typhoid fever. There was an epidemic here. And so he raised my mom, but he would come to Lees-McRae. She remembered it when she was a little girl. He would come to Lees-McRae because he was helping do some of these rock buildings here. And then my grandfather on the Ramsey side, my grandfather, he was a farmer, but he worked, Lees-McRae had a farm. And so he had a farm truck, and he would haul their livestock if they needed livestock hauled somewhere. Or if somebody was giving a bunch of canned goods to Lees-McRae, he would go pick them up and bring them. Well, Lees-McRae, grandfather home, and the hospital, it was all three one thing then. He would go bring the canned goods, or if somebody was giving clothes to the school, he would go get those clothes, and he would haul all that back and forth. And then my grandmother worked in the laundry here. There was a laundry for the hospital and the college, and it's the little rock building between Tate and the Performing Arts building up there. And that was the laundry, and my grandmother worked in that. So my mom and dad worked for Mr. Charles F. Whitesell. There's a Whitesell building on campus at the Performing Arts.
Costume shop.
Costume shop.
Mm-hmm.
They worked for him, and he taught drawing here, and I don't know, drafting. I'm not sure what else he did. He taught here. But he had a shop in town, And my dad learned to do woodworking from him, and my mom learned to do bottom chairs and to finish the furniture that they made. And she was in charge of the showroom. And I hung out there a lot before I started school. I knew a lot about Banner Oak before I started school, so I always have that connection with Lees-McRae.
And so everybody else kind of came from other places. And so could you all sort of talk about what that was like, sort of when you first came from LSU to the high country, for example, Dr. Spear? And
Yeah.
Salisbury is a little different from high country too, as is Florida, so.
Yeah, well, I came from Texas, and that Texan in me is pretty strong. But then I went to LSU and up. But yeah, I was not terribly happy coming to the mountains because I was like, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because at that time I didn't have a job with Appalachian, but I got a job as a quote third century artist and went around to different places trying to encouraging the arts. And I remember my boss and I rode by Lees-McRae, and she said, that is the sweetest, most wonderful college you'll ever know. And she just went on and on about it. And then in the first year I was here, y'all probably remember the 77 snows, that were up to here. Some of you will remember them. I mean, it was really scary, and it was a scary time in the mountains. And then more and more and more, this has just become home. It's a big adjustment, because coming from the deep South, and coming up here. But it's pretty awesome now.
I'm going to say Salisbury is really only good for two things, and that's Cheerwine and then the train station.
Oh, no.
I love Salisbury, born and raised there, but that's the only thing that I can think of. But coming here, I have never lived anywhere but Salisbury, born, raised, went to the same high school my mom went to. My high school had cows and goats and pigs and chickens and all of that. And I came up here, and we have great horned owls and eastern screech owls and snakes and things like that. It's a whole nother atmosphere. But definitely coming up here was a culture shock for me, because I was one of those girls where I was going to follow whoever I could to try to fit in the best. And that was not what was good for me. I came in, made friends. They weren't the best for me. But then I went back home, and I started to realize I'm doing the same thing I was doing back home, where I was falling back in that crowd of like, I have to fit in with these people. These are the people that make me who I am, and that wasn't what I needed. That was the Salisbury, not the Banner Elk Emma. So I came back that next year, and I was like, I'm not doing the Salisbury Emma anymore. I'm going to be a new Emma where I don't have to be in a location to be a certain person. So the mountains definitely have shaped me to be more independent, to where I don't have to fit in with a certain crowd to feel like I fit in like I did back home. And that's just a part of living, going from one medium-sized town to a little bit smaller, where you really have to find your own self. It's kind of hard not to in a small town. So.
Kind of like Emma, it was a culture shock for me too, because I'm from Florida, so I'm going from flat and blue to rigid and mountainy and green. And I guess I'm used to the country because I was born and raised in the Everglades, but the culture shock to me was Florida has a lot of Caribbean and Hispanic culture. So I'm surrounded by Haitians and Jamaicans and Cubans and Dominicans and all these types of different cultures, and the food and stuff like that. So I'm coming up here, and we don't have any of that. So it's not a bad thing. It's just not what I'm used to. So it definitely forced me to step out my comfort zone. Year one was definitely rough. It was a little bit depressing. You definitely have to learn to love the mountains, but there's definitely beauty in the mountains and a lot to learn here. So my adjustment was a little bit more rough, but now that I am adjusted, I think it's very growing, and it's very eye-opening.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge y'all a little bit here. So has there ever been sort of a situation here that maybe wasn't the best. So maybe that snow in '77, maybe there was an incident on the road or something, I don't know. But if you could talk a little bit about that. Because, of course, we all love being Bobcats and stuff, but, realistically, not
I don't know if I
every day
should
is
say
going to be a
names or
perfect
not.
day, right? So,
I just remember on the Bobcat bus, we would come back in the fog and have to chase the cows out of the road. I think the big thing is transition. Every time you bring in a new administrator, you start over. And it's like now I have to prove, that we're okay and that we're good at what we do and all that kind of stuff. And I've just been lucky that they've bought into some more than others, but bought into performing arts. But I was always kind of a mama bear, and I'd scratch for our department. And work hard for it, depending on who came in. But I think it's always transition. The people, the friends I've made, the people who've been with us for years are jewels. The consistency of people who have stuck with it, like the Frankies and people like that. Yeah.
We had a terrible administration once upon a time. I think that most of you all, when I say that, you know who it was, so I won't say a name. But it was a very hard time here. It was a very dark time for the employees and for the students, too, because we, probably from 1994 until 2010, we just didn't have good leadership. And I hate to say that, but I don't work here anymore, so you can't fire me. But we just didn't have good leadership, and it was the transition because we had people who came in that wanted to change everything, and they would get rid of people who had been here for decades, not centuries, decades, who had dedicated their lives to this school. And it was very bad. I even dreamed that person was the devil one time. So, and you know who it is too, Janet. But then, that was one. And, of course, those folks move on. That's the good thing about it. If they don't fit in here, after a while, they'll move on. And so the ones who stay, they kind of settle out and things work out okay. But we've been through some bad times here when employees weren't treated well and we lost some good people. But, I told Janet when we sat down here, when you look at everything from this side, everything turned out okay. And in the end, it was all good. But we've had some hard times. So.
You want me to answer this question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mine is definitely nothing to compare to that. Mine is more an event that happened. Is that okay? My freshman year, there was a carbon monoxide poisoning in Avery. That set the stone for my freshman year, because that was I think it was, which one's in September? Labor Day? Labor Day's in September? It was Labor Day, getting ready to be Labor Day weekend. Going home the next morning, literally the next morning, I just needed to get through the morning, and fire alarm goes off. I didn't even hear. My roommate wakes me up. She's like, "You got to go. Get up. We got to get out." And the next thing I know, we're not allowed back in our rooms until 10 a.m., and you have 15 minutes to go get your stuff, get what you need, and you have to either leave or find somewhere else to stay. Mm-hmm. And it really set the stone of how Lees-McRae was going to handle a situation like that, because I don't think we really ever had something like that happen to where we had to be like, oh, okay, this is what we need to do now. And it was definitely interesting because I had never experienced anything like that. So I was just going with the flow. I took a nap in King Chevelle, and I was good for the night. And then I got tested for carbon monoxide and had to go to the hospital. And then I fell asleep on the bed there. And I was just having a good time sleeping wherever I could that night. That was all I could think about, was just letting me go back to sleep. But that's the only thing I can think of as a worst of the worst situations. I've never had to experience that's the backside of everything, to where situations where administration gets kind of switched, and for my benefit or not affecting me in any way.
Being here for all 4 years of my collegiate experience, I could go on and on and on and on about different situations that were not so pleasing to be in. But I think what they all kind of tie back into is just not being heard as a student, and kind of not being able to give your input as a student because you're just a student, because so how could you know what you need because you're a student? So that's why I'm thankful for your position, Charles, because we're able to have an avenue and have a place where we could voice our concerns and have a possibility for someone to speak to, for us. But yeah, like going up and voicing my concerns or voicing my frustration with certain administrators or faculty where I need help in or somewhere, or I have there's change that's needed in a certain area, and instead of that certain individual helping me with the problem, I'm taking around in circles of, oh, well, this person could help you, this person could help you, or this person could help you. So that's kind of my largest frustration and the hardest part of overcoming at Lees-McRae.
So this is more for Brittany, just to follow up on what you just said. So how can we do better in that?
So I actually did a whole project about this.
Did you?
In class one time, yes, and I do have solutions for you, but I would have to present that project to you. It was with a team, though. So, but if you really want to hear it, we would be happy to get back together.
Oh no, I
And
would like that. So
yes,
let's talk after.
Yes, I promise you, it is very well put together, and I could actually update it more now that you're here and how you could fit into that equation.
All right.
There's many ways as to how we could fix that problem.
Well, I look forward to that. Okay. I actually want to just take a moment because I see, of course, we couldn't ask everybody to be on the panel, but I see some other women in the room that I just really feel like we need to recognize. Miss Rita, thank you for being here. I see Dean Anderson. I see our Director of Counseling and Wellness, Miss Marla. And Dr. Katie Talbert, thank you for being here. Okay. And so, what is probably the best piece of advice that you've gotten, like in general, from maybe one of your role models, or maybe you just came across it somewhere, that you really sort of have taken to heart and adopted, and sort of how you approach life?
This is my Southern mama talking, okay? My stepmom, she's from Georgia. She's very Southern. And this is what she would tell me every day before I went to high school, because I was not doing well in high school. She would say, "You do you, boo." And that's what she would tell me every day. Love that woman to death. But that was her motivational speech of the day, because as you get so messed up in your head where you feel like you got to fit in, you feel like you got to be somebody else, and all she could tell me was, "You do you." And yeah, that was the best piece of advice I could ever have.
So just for the benefit of some who may not know what that means, could you sort of explain?
Yeah. It just means like if you're gonna do something, you at least need to do it your way and be you when you are doing it. So if I'm gonna walk into the cafeteria, I'm not gonna walk in any other way than what I would normally walk in. If I'm gonna do a project, I'm gonna do it the way I would want to do it, and I'm gonna stick with it and not change myself if I'm gonna do something. Like joining the cheer team and never having a cheer experience in my life, I did that doing it for myself and doing it in a way that I knew that I was gonna be okay by doing that nobody was gonna judge me, and nobody can judge me, but if I failed by doing it, that as long as I did it for myself and I was doing myself a favor, that there should be no reason I can't do it.
I don't know. I guess I learned this over time. Somebody may have told me this, but you have to accept change. If you're not willing to change, you're going to get left behind. So you have to embrace change and make the best of it.
Miss Amy gave me this advice, but, well, she gave me it's multiple pieces of advice, The first one being control the situations that you can control and let go of the situations that you can't, because a lot of times we tend to get stuck on the things that, outside factors that we can't really control, and we let it affect our emotions negatively. But if you control if you control how you react to that, and you control your emotions, then it just brings out a different perspective. And the next one is don't belittle myself to fit the people that surround me. And by that, it means like a lot of times I could be a lot. You know, I like to get my point across, and if you don't agree with me, it kind of angers me. And maybe that doesn't, a lot of people find that it's intimidating, or a lot of people find that personality, that strong personality, intimidating. So what it means is like they don't really have to agree with me, but as long as I believe in what I'm doing, and as long as I feel like what I'm doing is good, then I could stay headstrong on that and stand my ground on what I believe in.
Well, the advice I got was kind of secondhand. I remember when I first came here, and I was like, I'm going to rule the world, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to just make wonderful changes, and it's going to be wonderful for you all to have me here. And I was talking to Don Baker and telling him all the things that I was going to do, and some of you remember Don. And Don was like, well, what else is there for us to do then? And if you know Don, that was a real put down, and it was a real smart thing to say. Because, you know, as young women going into a job, the first thing you do when you get there is you see what other talent is around you, and you see who the people are. And boy, it's really freeing as you're working in your life and your profession, when you get to the point that it's more about the others than it is about you. Boy, it's freeing. It's a release when it stops becoming your ego, and it is more about the people who are around you. And it's just, you'll find people like you better. You know, it's just all kinds of wonderful things happen when you get out of your own head and go to work.
And so this next question takes us all the way back to 1900, to these two lovely ladies up here. And so, first of all, did everybody know that Lees-McRae was named after two women? Did you know that when you first came here, students? So when did you talk about that? When did you learn?
Today.
Today?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So for those who knew, what does it mean to sort of be connected to an institution that has the sort of history that we have in providing opportunity for women? What is that? You know, what does that mean to you? Have you ever sort of thought about that?
Well, I could definitely see how the foundation of these two women collabing to make this institution, their legacy lives on, because it's still women empowering women on this campus to the fullest, and it's still giving each other a hand and helping each other when we're not feeling too well. And just most of the staff here is women, like from the financial department to administration to student development. The only place I would say is the athletic facility, but we still have Miss Rita there holding it down, running everybody, telling Craig what to do. So, yeah, I definitely see that their legacy lives on in this community.
So my family is a whole bunch of teachers and a whole bunch of college professors. My great-grandma taught at Lafayette College up north, and my nana, she's a college professor, as well as she taught in the high school level. So just by coming to a college that was named after two women, it just kind of connected to me to kind of live through my grandparents and the professors and the teachers that I have been raised by, of like embracing the women empowerment that surrounds me completely.
I think in that day and time that it was probably really unique in the 1900s. And I think that Edgar Tufts had an open mind and that he would do almost anything to ensure that the mountain people had education, medical help, and the orphans and the children had somewhere to be. He had a great calling from God, and he did not care that those were women, and he just used that to name, and in appreciation of what these women were doing, because they were doing so much, and he just had an open mind, which a lot of people, I guess, in that day would not have had. There would have been no women doing that, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that Edgar Tufts, these women weren't terribly associated with it. One was a teacher and one was a philanthropist, you know, and he made the choice to use these women. But definitely his wife was instrumental in everything that happened on the campus. And I don't know why this kicks me over to this, but you know, the Grace Hospital that you were born in, you all, some of you may know and some of you may not, that people would come from miles and miles and miles to this hospital because they would never turn anyone away. And that meant people of color, that meant people from all over the place, and that waiting room would be packed because they would not send people away until everyone was seen. That's our legacy, and that's the Tufts legacy, and that's what we're about. It was about kindness, taking care of people, and service. And that's an enormously, that was a great place to work. It was a place that put service at the forefront.
And so one thing that I keep hearing is that this is a place where women support women. And so I'm wondering, how can we men be better at supporting women? And so could you talk a little bit more about that?
Don't start trouble.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start with Roy Craigie.
Yes.
Roy was my boss, and he was, I don't know if Marion trained him this way or not. He was always good with the women in the office, and he would get flustered sometimes, and I would go in and I'd say, Roy, you just need to calm down, and he would say, Marion tells me that all the time. But I thought the men here, most of the men here were very good at, it was just a good relationship between men and women here at Lees-McRae, between the administration and the staff. It wasn't really, the men had this going and the women had this going. It was kind of shared, and it was like a family thing, and I think they've done a really good job over the years. So.
Yeah, I agree. Ditto.
If we're just talking overall, or just in Lees-McRae?
Well, I just heard so much about, you know, women supporting other women and going sort of out of their way, and didn't really hear that about sort of the men supporting, so I was just curious about that part.
I've had male professors, and I definitely feel like they support me as much as my male classmates. But I definitely feel like the female to male ratio is definitely a lot higher. So you don't really see very many male students in a lot of the classes that I'm in, at least. I don't know about a lot of the other people. But with that being said, I definitely feel like Lees-McRae is definitely a school that, if I was going to recommend to a woman that feels like they need to be supported by women, this would definitely be a school that I would recommend.
I guess how men at Lees-McRae could support women. I think it goes back to my point about being heard more. This being directed towards my couple of teammates sitting over there because they never want to listen to me. But other than that, they do support me though, and there is a great support system there. I just think a lot of times, speaking off of personal experience, I guess how do I word it? A lot of what we're said is taken into speaking on an emotional standpoint as opposed to being validated in the points that we're making. So that's what I have to say about that.
Oh, you said ditto, I'm sorry.
I said ditto, yeah. That's good. I agree with her.
And so, Emma, question for you. So you talked about how one of your favorite memories is sort of, hey, you met your best friend. And so could you sort of talk about that friendship and sort of, you know, what that's meant to you during your time here?
Go ahead and stand up, Cameron. If anybody doesn't know that this is my best friend, love this girl, she's amazing. But we were not friends freshman year. We were not that close the freshman year, but we did join the cheer team together. But we definitely have gotten closer. We were RAs together, and I have had the deepest conversations I've had with anybody with this girl because she is not like me. She is obviously not my color. She's obviously not from the same area that I'm in, but we have the best conversations because we can communicate and share and express things that we would not be able to do with somebody that might be a little bit more ignorant or might not be single-minded because they don't have that two-way conversation instead of it being a one-way conversation. We talk about things that most individuals would be afraid to talk about due to disagreement. And me and her do disagree about a lot of things, but we also agree about a lot of things too. And I think that that's why we are okay being best friends because of the fact that we can have those connections and disagreements and still be perfectly fine because we don't end up leading onto an argument because we don't let it get it that far. We understand that we're not always going to agree with things, and I feel like that's how the world should be sometimes. You are going to disagree with somebody beside of you, behind you, in front of you, but as long as you support them and you say, okay, we're going to agree to disagree, and then you move on. And I think that that's how a beautiful friendship can start, and that's how essentially our friendship started.
And so, Ms. Frankie and Dr. Spear, I know you all probably have made a lot of friends over the years here. And could you talk a little bit about sort of what that's meant to you? And
Sandy Ramsey is, I have two best friends. Sandy's one of them, and another one is Faye, and I met both of them here.
oh, there is it here? One of
Yeah,
them.
Sandy's here. And we worked together and cried together and got mad together about things that went on, but we take little trips together, and now that we're retired, we still talk to each other on the phone, and we go on little day trips, and we go on little vacations together, and they are the friends I choose, and I just really love them, and it's been great because I met them here at Lees-McRae.
Yeah. Friendships, I mean, there are people out here, it is just, and that's the beauty of Banner Elk, is these deep, deep friendships. We know everything there is to know about each other, and we still love each other, you know, and it's just pretty gosh awful special when you get into a community like that. I'm just so glad I ended up in a small community where we could build those kinds of friendships because we've got each other's back all the time, you know, no matter what happens. So, yeah, deep friendships have been formed.
So, Brittany, I hear you over here sort of agreeing with some of what's said. Do you have any thoughts?
My personal experience is throughout middle school and high school, my only friends would be the people that were on my athletic track and field team. And while those are my biggest friends on campus right now, the faculty and staff and the women here are my friends as well. Like the fact that I could go up casually to them and ask for them about advice, and they know a lot of things about me. They might know some things about me that I don't know that they know. And I'm fine with that, though, because I have that trust and I have that relationship with them where I know that they're not going to tear me down with that information. They're just going to uplift me. And the fact that I could just talk to them about anything and just walk into Miss Amy's office and just cry, even though I might be crying about something that's irrational, she's still going to listen to me, and she's still going to comfort me. And, yeah, just that aspect of Lees-McRae is really just a blessing, honestly.
Charles, I'm going to speak back to that. Not only has Brittany walked into my office crying, but she's walked into my office and caught me crying. And so she's been a good friend on the other side.
Like just this weekend.
Well, I wasn't going to name David.
But she was sitting there. I was on campus early in the morning. I saw her car. I'm like, I wonder what Miss Amy's doing. I'm not going to bother her, but I wonder what she's doing. And then I came back to pick up my dog later up in the day. And I was like, no, you've been here for too long. Let me go check up on you and see what you're doing because you're up to something. But yeah, sometimes, like, if she needed food, I would have brought food for her. If she needed anything, any of my assistance, I would have brought it to her. And that, the fact that I could have that relationship with my professor, I wouldn't have been able to have that opportunity at any other college.
Okay, go Amy.
And so there is a lot of sort of institutional knowledge up here. We've got faculty, staff, students. And so I would like to give folks an opportunity, maybe they have maybe a question they'd like to ask. So the question was, do we have this sort of interaction when we are trying to bring students in? So I am not, so full disclosure here, so April 4th will be my 3-month anniversary as a Bobcat. So I'm relatively new. So I'm gonna look at some of the other folks who've been here a little bit longer than me that maybe might know something about that.
Are you referring to when we're recruiting students and how we talk with them? Yes. For the most part, and Brittany can let me speak to it as well, when there's students that are coming for a visit, whether it's a coach, like Coach Chatera is bringing the student to campus, normally they'll call one of the faculty members, I'm top of the list for some reason, and I'll sit and talk with the family, the student, and just kind of feel them out on what they're looking for and have that dialogue with them. And if we're sitting down like in our offices and other kids are milling about, you can't hide it. You certainly can't fake it that when Brittany's coming in to check on me or vice versa, and I'm speaking with a potential student, they see our interaction with one another, and they see and they hear a genuineness in our tone.
Right. Miss Amy often asks me to participate at open houses, or when I was on the cheer team, we participated in open houses a lot, and I think a lot of students saw the relationship, and also I feel like my personality is naturally welcoming. Like, I'm gonna talk to somebody like I've been their lifelong friend, and while that may take some students by surprise, I also feel like it lets them know, like, this is the community. If you want a community, if you want somewhere where people are gonna know you and know who you are, this is the place to do it at. So that interaction definitely does happen when we're trying to bring people in.
We also kind of warn them too that sometimes we do know more than they think we know about them. And so, it comes in handy when I have to check up on something.
Right.
Thank you for that question. Are there any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
For the young ladies on the panel, what will you carry forward?
It's me.
Yeah, sorry. That was so terrible of me. For all the ladies on the panel. So what will you carry forward in your next kind of gig to make sure that you're good to the other women around you?
So, sorry, did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Equal opportunity. I don't believe in first impressions. I oftentimes think that you're nervous, you have other things going on, your mind is somewhere else. So I always believe in third impressions most of the time, because at least by that time you're a little bit broke, like your skin's a little bit looser, you feel a little bit better. And for women, I feel like you have so much already pressuring you to be the best that you can, that you can have those chances. That I believe in, like, you're okay to make mistakes, and I'm okay to make mistakes as long as we are mutually making mistakes and understanding that. So.
You get on me about this a lot, but not really judging someone on their worst days and not judging someone when they're frustrated, especially with women, because women tend to be a little more fierce. So giving, like Cameron's,
It's okay. I take that as
like she said, second, third, fourth chances, and getting to know someone genuinely, as opposed to the facade that they're trying to put up when they're dealing with certain situations.
Do you want to know what we're going to take from this too?
I just want to know what y'all think. I'm really.
Well, my whole world is different now from working in an office. I'm a caregiver now for my two sisters and a little bit for my husband. He's a diabetic, and so we have to work on his diet. But I have a sister with dementia, and she's now at the Cranberry House. I was trying to take care of her at her home, but I just couldn't do it right on and on. And so it's a whole different, it's something that's completely different for me. But being in the Cranberry House down there, people will tell you all kinds of stories that are not true because they don't know. And it's a different group of people. You know, I think about being with our alumni when we did so many alumni events. But I'm with a different group of people down there now, and they love for somebody to know their name. They love for somebody to talk to them. And so I'm trying to be patient and just be kind, and to always, even if I have to go out of my way a little bit, to speak to some of these folks and see how they're doing. But I think it goes back to just being kind with people. So.
Yeah, that's the more you can practice kindness and get better and better and better at it, that's the thing. But I think we're in a great position. I think women are in a, you know, we got our new woman preacher at our Presbyterian church, and with Reverend Rachel, and I think things are on a good trajectory. And kindness is what we need so badly. I mean, we've been so mean to each other for the last 2 years. The meanness has just been extraordinary. And we need to be kind. We need to be looking at the world, seeing where the world and the people on Buck Mountain around, you know, our own community that need our help. And we ought to be just really working on that every day.
Don't be shy now. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Brittany, you mentioned sometimes there's a stereotype that women can be too emotional or illogical, and so not taking it seriously. Were there other stereotypes or ideas of what a woman should be or supposed to be that you all had to overcome?
So like I said, me personally, I'm a very outspoken woman. I'm steadfast in what I believe in, and I'm also, I don't really know how to describe it. Miss Amy could probably describe it, but a lot of people are trying to say, like, well, that's not lady. Like, you're not supposed to be that strong. You're not supposed to be. Why are you that athletic? You must have a higher testosterone than many other women. And just like I said, like, not falling to those expectations, and then showing that that part of me is what makes me who I am and what makes me great and what makes me accomplish all that I accomplish. And I'm not ashamed of it, and never should I be ashamed of it.
I've been called opinionated so many times in my life. That is definitely a stereotype. But I definitely think by being opinionated is somewhat of a good thing, because I oftentimes, I wouldn't say that I do it in a way that comes over where you wouldn't appreciate it. It's more of like, if I have an issue or if I think that my idea would be better, I like to express those things, because you never know on who will agree with you. And I see myself as a really good leader, and I like to express my opinions through being a leader, whether that is something people agree or disagree upon.
I think what me and Emma are trying to get at, the stereotype we're trying to get at, is attitude. And like having people thinking that what we say is a negative attitude when really it's just a strong opinion and a strong voice.
I didn't really grow up the man versus woman kind of thing. That's kind of new to me. In my family, we had lots of things to do. We had cows and chickens and pigs and a workhorse, and we farmed and stuff like that. And my mom and dad didn't really have a job that was for a boy or for a girl. We all just, you know, had to do whatever had to be done. So, and then I felt like when I worked here at Lees-McRae, things were not real. This is for a woman or this is for a man. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a new thing for me. It's not really the world that I know is men versus women, because it seems like we just all had to do whatever had to be done. So.
Yeah, I think they've answered it beautifully.
So, as they say in the church, all hearts and minds clear? Yes, Coach.
For Brittany, even though we had a panel last month, we just gonna put them together. Can you talk about your experiences as a Black woman here at Lees-McRae?
So my experiences as a Black woman, my being stereotyped as the strong Black woman, or being having a thinking people thinking that I have an attitude towards everything, or maybe even being sexualized in a way that I don't care to be. And I don't really know how I can't tell you specifically how I overcame that. Out in the community, it's way worse than it is on Lees-McRae. I think on campus, it's a little bit safe, but there's this really, really bad situation actually that happened. I work at Bella's, and I was working over the summer, and it was a customer who thought it was okay. It was a local customer, by the way, that thought it was okay to come up to me and say, "Is it true what they say? Is it, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice?" And I just got very offended by that. And I didn't really know how to react to that because there's no proper reaction to that. Because if I had got angry and got mad and flared my arms and yelled at him, I would have been stereotyped as the angry Black woman. If I ignore it, it's making them think that it's okay. So I just walked away, really, because I felt like that was the best thing to do at the moment other than slap him. But it's just hard. Like a lot of, like even now, I'm trying to overcome my voice being suppressed and maybe getting out of that victim mentality of, oh, well, they're not giving me the things that I need and the resources that I need to be great because I'm a Black woman. Had it been a other type of woman or had it been a non-colored woman, they would have given the opportunities to them. Previously, I was creating a club called Woke, and it was to empower the diverse students on campus. And now that I'm a senior, trying to focus on graduating, I don't really run it anymore. But I feel like that was the largest thing I got to the barriers of being a Black woman on this campus. I remember one time I was trying to work on this project before they renovated the CAF. I was trying to get the students together to create a mural, and I had to present it. First, I presented it to President King. President King had me present it to the panel, the board, to make sure that everybody agreed with the idea. And it was very intimidating for me to go up there and and again, it's not a woman versus man thing, but it was me, a young Black woman, in front of a board of older white men expressing my idea, and they shut it down. And it was just very degrading at that moment. And it was just a matter of perspective. I don't think they turned it down because I was a Black woman, but it was just in that moment of intimidation, of being in front of that crowd and being denied the opportunity of doing something that we felt would have brought the students together. So it's definitely been hard, but I definitely I know that it could have been worse in different areas. Being from Florida, coming to a less diverse area, it's scary to walk across the street sometimes to go get a snack or go get food and not get looked at some type of way. I could keep going on and on. It's a lot, but I learned that this area is very welcoming as opposed to intimidated by Black women. So I'm just learning to be a woman that showcases that we could come together as opposed to let these differences spread us apart.
Yes.
You are all leaders in one fashion or another. How would you describe your leadership style
So I am the vice president of the student body, as well as the supervisor at the bookstore. So I oversee the student workers at the bookstore, and I would say that my student workers know what they are expected to do. And instead of being more of a leader, I see us more of a team, in a sense of, especially being a captain on the cheer team, where I'm not somebody that you should think of as an authoritative person, but more as what you would think of a teacher or a tutor or a mentor of, like, you can come and ask me how to do something, or you can come and ask me how I can help you. But I don't see me as like a dictatorish leader, as a sense of like, I'm gonna tell you what to do and you need to do it. It's more of a sense of we're a team and we're expected to all play that kind of a part to it.
When you teach people anything, or you're trying to, I guess as a leader, show them how to do something, if they understand what you're looking for, I mean, you can tell people how to do things all day long, but you kind of give them some idea of what the result you're looking for, or how it's going to turn out, or why they do these certain things to get this result. I always learned better when somebody would explain the process to me, rather than just, give it to me and say, ask me if you have any questions, but I like detail on things myself, so.
I think my leadership style is kind of the similar as Emma's, being more as a team member than a leader. Definitely not a dictatorship, but I am going to come up with a list of tasks that you have to follow, and if you don't follow it, you're going to hear it from me, because in order to keep the system working, everybody has to do their part. When it comes to being a leader on my team, there's no set leader position, like there's not a captain or anything like that, but I'm definitely the one, like the team mom, like the person who, if everybody's joking around and messing around at practice, I'm going to be like, hey, get it together. Go get the equipment out the shed that we need. Make sure that you know the warm-up, and if they don't know the warm-up, I'm definitely going to give it to them. And a lot of times I host team dinners at my house, just as a team bonding experiment where I cook for the team and stuff like that. So definitely unifying. I feel like I'm a unifying leader, someone that wants to bring people together and enjoy a good time.
I think a lot of it is preparedness. You have to really have your ducks in a row, or they won't respect you. You have to do that as a teacher. You have to do that as a director of shows or anything. Treating people with dignity. And my problem is probably that I will go a lot of limits with a person before I give up on them. That's been a good thing and a bad thing. But I think that preparedness is a lot of it. Be professional, and they'll respect you and follow you.
No other questions? All right. We made good time, everyone. So can we give the round of applause to our panelists, please? And so I'm especially appreciative, as someone who's not even 3 months in here, to you all agreeing to participate in this event. And I have a little token of appreciation that I would like to give all of you. I'm going to do that right now. So.
Get a bottle of water. Okay. Oh. Now that's what men can do. Thank you. Oh.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for being here. I'm very excited that we have a diversity person. Thank you for doing that.
All right, everyone, be safe getting home. Thank you for coming out. If you have any questions for me, I'll be around for a little bit longer, and we have our director of the New Opportunity School for Women, who has those flyers to hand out. And so look forward to seeing you all at the next event. Thank you so much.